to the beginning of another week. It is the beginning of week 16, and I can actually say that I feel caught up in the garden. There's always going to be those few stragglers that like linger from week to week. So I definitely have a few things from last week that I didn't get done, namely planting, because at this point our weather kind of switched overnight from 4 degrees in the evenings and nights to 10 plus, which is definitely the signal to start thinking about getting things planted outdoors. I think I still will be starting some things in cells just because I do have a lot of slugs and snails. So when I plant things directly in the ground, as soon as they pop up, the snails and the slugs tend to eat them before they even have a chance. But we're going to see. The spring has definitely been kind of like welcomed in by all the farmers doing their thing in the fields. They come out late at night, they come out early in the morning. They're basically getting their work done, prepping the fields before planting. I don't think anything's been planted around here, but the farmers are definitely out tilting, making sure that everything's like ready to go. So in that vein, I will take you around and show you what happens. Okay, so we're out in the garden. Things are doing their thing. I did get around to doing the planting there last week, I think, which I've already showed, but I did get around to actually covering some of my beds. So where I'm going to plant my tomatoes, peppers, aubergines, things of that nature have been covered. The garlic, I'm still fighting my rust. So you can see here, I get rust pretty bad, but it is what it is. The brassica bed has also been covered. And I mentioned the farmer doing work. So if I zoom in, maybe you can see that he's out doing his thing. That is the same farmer who owns this plot, I believe, and the plot over there. So he's been out doing his thing, and it's actually very satisfying to see the fields up close after they've been, I think this is tilthed. So they come through and they do a tillage, which is like their rough thing. And then they come through with this other tool to like do the fine breaking up of stuff. So that is what he is doing now. Out in the garden, I have some stuff happening over here. So if I gingerly step up here, I've been weeding all of my planters. These are all self-watering planters, and I tend to like stick my cuttings in and just see what happens. I did bring out some of my seedlings from inside. I've also received an order of seedlings. Unfortunately, the seedlings that I ordered, they're okay. They're not fantastic, but it is what it is. These are the tomatoes that are left that made it. I think I mentioned that some of my tomatoes died, and again, it is what it is. These I'm super proud of. These are cuttings that I took of that, pink flowering thing previously. So I actually took these cuttings 2 years ago, and I've been working on getting them bigger. And I'm planning on giving that one to my mother-in-law because she expressed interest in the pink flowers. Over here is just some other random things that are either going to continue growing here or get planted out in the garden. This is basically kind of my experimental area. I'm actually thinking about recalling it the Genesis Garden, since this is sort of where like all of my stuff starts. But we'll see what happens. I'm kind of in the process of renaming a bunch of things just for my own fun. Yeah, up in the garden, up in the orchard, things are happening. The Bocking 14 is flowering. So that's looking really nice. I mentioned before that my daffodils are pretty much, they flowered and they're done. But the strawberries that I planted before are coming in. So you can actually see that I do have strawberries. And I marked them. So these are Garriguettes, and that tree has Garriguettes, and the third tree has Garriguettes. And then we switched to Mara de Bois for 3 trees, and then we switch to Charlotte for 3 trees. But you can see the little things, so that's cool. My lupins, some of my lupins are actually coming up along this wall with my kiwis, so that's nice too. I did actually go around, and I've also planted some shallots outside the strawberries. So if they come up, they're going to be kind of late planted shallots because I should have done them in the fall, but we'll see what happens. These darker sections are actually, these are actually artichokes that I ordered online from a place. And obviously they're not looking that great. And yeah, I planted them anyway. I'm hoping for the best. I figure we'll just watch them together and see what happens. I have 4 purple ones and 4 green ones. So yeah, like this one, you can't even find it anymore. So that was a little disappointing. That is not an artichoke. The artichoke should be, oh, here's a leaf remnant of the artichoke. Yeah, so so we'll see. I mean, obviously, like those plants, they all arrived and they were quite like emaciated and dried up from the transit. I planted them anyway because you would be surprised how well things bounce back even after looking like really, really, really bad. So I don't know. I'm hoping for the best. We'll see what happens. Over here, my Lovage did finally decide to perk up. So I'll be remulching this, but this is one of 3 that I planted around the property. These I still need to kind of figure out what I'm doing with. This grape, definitely a goner, but my other grapes are doing okay. And then I did actually set up this arch because speaking of plants that come back, this is my Akebia, which is like a berry that prefers the shade. And I planted it here last year and like it didn't do anything and I thought it was dead. And then it decided to come back this year. So I went ahead and I've given it an arch, and I'm going to go ahead and try to train it to grow up this arch, and we'll see what happens. Chances are it's not going to be able to stay here because, like I say, I didn't actually think it had survived. Akebia Kanata. So yeah, we'll see what happens. My cilantro is looking really, really nice. So that's growing in here. I might actually expand that to encompass more beds. The Idors wild garlic is sort of trying to come up, but definitely not enough to harvest this year. This is I only just planted those, so no surprise there. This is also the 2nd year for my muguet or my lily of the valley. So I finally have some flowers, and that's kind of cool. I planted these along this north side in these containers because these are all the plants that prefer being in the shade. So they have sun now, but it's like, what time is it? And they get the late afternoon sun, but that's about it. We changed the thing with our wasp traps because I was catching European hornets, which I don't want to catch. So Francis made these little covers with like just over 8mm holes, which are supposed to be big enough for the Asian hornets, which are invasive, but small enough that the European hornets can't get in. And basically we're putting them on these little things to isolate the traps. And then I fill it, crash, bang, boom. I fill it with a fermented liquid that has apple cider vinegar. So the apple cider vinegar means that the bees won't be attracted, but the hornets are. And then in here, you can actually see I do have some things. So this, for example, if I can get them out, well, these are the Asian hornets with their yellow legs. So I left one in here from when I cleaned it, because the decaying bodies actually attract other hornets. And so far I have 2. So I know that Francis's excluder is working, because I am no longer catching the European hornets. And we want the European hornets because all of the hornets fight for the same nesting areas. And the European hornets are much bigger than the Asian hornets, and actually like will attack Asian hornets. So last week I was quite upset when I found out that my traps were catching European hornets as well as Asian hornets. But I will say, despite the week of accidentally catching European hornets, we have caught 64 Asian hornets, which means a bunch less hives this summer, which will be awesome. Nothing is happening in the driveway, except for the fact that you can see my little mashua is coming up. I'm very cautiously optimistic that it will like it here and do well. I did also plant my oca. So I put these little tags in to identify the oca, because I planted different colors. Whereas the mashua, there's only 2 types. There's like a yellow type and a white type. So they're super easy to tell apart once I dig up the roots. And then I wanted to show off my little fairy garden. It's all set up. It has like the little Believe in Fairies sign, and fairies enchant this area. The little door is metal, and the little fairy and her little patio set is metal. And then the mushrooms are all plastic, connected with a wire, which I'll mulch over. And they're attached to a solar panel up there, which isn't in the sun right now. But yeah, basically the solar panel will illuminate the lights down here, and I'll throw in a picture at least of the lights, because I got the rest of it later. I did also get my last planter. It's right there. So hopefully this week I'll get around to clearing that out, installing the planter, and then all of these planters I'm going to be putting in a layer of cardboard on the bottom to help insulate from the concrete, but also to act as like a wicking absorption layer. And then I'll put soil on top of that for planting. What else? Up in the potato area, I did fill in this with more straw, and then my plants very promptly pushed out through it, which is great. It means that they're nice and strong, or at least some of them are nice and strong. This one, I did the horse manure, put the potatoes in, 13 random potatoes, and then covered it with compost. So I'm waiting for them to push through, and then I will top them up. My my petit pois, my little green peas, haven't surfaced. The parsnips, I'm assuming, are dead. I'm still setting up these 2 bins, and this black salsify, I actually figured out is a perennial. I didn't realize that. I thought it was an annual, or I probably would have put it somewhere else. So it's going to hang out in this bag for at least 2 years before I harvest it for the roots. And I've never used that, so we'll see what happens. And these are my other potatoes. So these are now kind of at a size where I want to go ahead and cover them again with straw. So I will be doing that this week. And here are the potatoes that I planted later, and you can see they are just starting to break the surface. So we'll give them probably about a week for them to get to be looking around closer to this. And then I will also cover them up. Again, I'm using all of the composted, decomposed straw bales that I had from last year. So they've already like sprouted and done their thing, and they're partially decomposed. So I don't really have to worry about that. And that's what I'm using to fill up all of these potato beds. Other than that, I think that's basically it. I will come and leave you with my pink flowers because they are beautiful right now. And I hope you had a great week, and I will see you next week. Bye.